for the Genius Insight. This is Dr. Ariel Policano. I am so happy to bring you all your wonderful answers to your wonderful questions about biofeedback and specifically about the Genius Insight. You guys, if you'd like to volunteer, we could use a volunteer today. So go ahead and send me your questions, send me your date of birth if you'd like to volunteer, and we will get started with all of that. Hang on for 1 second. I just need to turn the picture off for 1 second, so hang in there. And let me know your questions about anything that we're doing. I'll be more than happy to answer those. And then we'll get into some cases. There's nothing too much new, I think, to talk about. There is the progressive insight, so we're going to look at some things in not in progressive insights, but in entangled insights, and we'll get into that. I think that'll be really helpful for today. Karen, welcome, and thank you so much for letting me know that we were having some technical difficulties there. And I just want to welcome Jane. Welcome, Jane C., and so glad to have you here. And Carol, it's always a pleasure. Beatrice, warm welcome. Hey, Orlando, haven't seen you in the class in a while, and I'm really glad to have you. Just always pop in whenever you want to. A warm welcome to Sharon and a belated birthday to you, my dear. So good to have you joining us. Rita is here, and we have people who are in their 80s and 90s who are using the Genius, and I don't want to out anybody's age, but we love you no matter what age range you're in, and we're so glad that you're here. Kirsty, welcome, and Kendra's joining us from Colorado. Kendra, welcome, and Jeff is joining us from the East Coast. Jeff, thanks so much for being here. Really, thank you. I love it when you guys join us for the support call, because there's so many things I can explain to you in the support call. And if you're not a part of our practitioner program, there's still a really a great opportunity for you to join the practitioner program. So I'm going to send you the link. If you are interested, do jump in there and join us. What we're doing every week is where it is a paid course, just so you know, but it is an opportunity for you to learn specific protocols and get forms that help you with your practice and help you even with your own practice for yourself. So if that's something that you're interested in, you could still meet with me, get your questions answered. I don't want you to miss out on this program because it is so important. We're going to be doing food sensitivities this week. We're going to be talking about protocols for dealing with food allergies and also helping people to understand the foods that they're most sensitive to. So that's what we're doing in the class, in the practitioner class, and you're going to get protocols for helping people both to identify the foods that they need to be aware of and some ways to clear. Once you clear these foods and people understand the foods that they're most sort of up against, that helps them a lot, because you guys, it is so true that the digestion, your state of digestion is related to your state of health. And if you are unknowingly eating foods that you're sensitive to, it's a big problem. And so it's really important for you to test yourself on a regular basis with your Genius. And you could start doing it today just with the food allergy, with that sensitivities panel. But we're going to talk about getting more specific, identifying intolerances from allergies and how that all works and how emotions play a part, as well as some other things that are affecting us and causing us to have leaky gut. So super, super important, and a really marketable skill. That's one that you can roll out anywhere that you go with people. Everyone wants to understand their food allergies. And so it becomes something that you can really hang your hat on and make a living with the Genius. Even if people don't understand all the other aspects of what the Genius can do, they understand. You could make an entire practice. I would almost said a bread and butter practice. That's the things people are most sensitive to. But you could really make a very profound, very great impact and be very successful only by doing food allergies. And that's what we've really been talking about in the practitioner class, is really getting laser focused on one aspect of the Genius, because it's hard to eat the whole enchilada at one time. When you try to sort of give this to someone as the whole program, even the client becomes confused. So, but when we really get focused on one area, like minerals and vitamins or food allergies or emotions, then they sort of understand it a little bit better. We're going to start with this case. Now, Karen, we're going to start with Bonnie, and we won't reveal any of her birth data or her full name, but let's see if we can get her close to the microphone and unmute you, Karen, in just a moment. I do need a second to take care of all the details. So I do need to turn this camera off again. And don't worry, guys, I'll get to all of your comments. Keep those comments coming. I love them. And we're going to talk about your questions. And I don't think that Zoha is here, a wonderful Zoha from Mexico, but she'll be able to listen to the recording. And she's asked me a lot about the cancer frequencies that come up in Entangled Insights. It's something that she's been quite stressed about. So we're going to talk about those, and we'll talk about the PDF document that goes with the Entangled Insights. Have you guys ever got that? That some of you, my longtime students, have gotten that, but we want to make sure you get the PDF. Is the database listing of all the things that are located actually in the Entangled Insights, so you know what the database is. So I'm just getting this information entered in. We don't reveal the birth date information. Probably nobody here would ever use it, but just for security purposes we do that. Okay, we have that entered. All right, so let's turn back on the camera. Sorry guys, there we go. All right, so let's go here. We're going to unmute the microphone there, Karen. There you go. Okay, are you guys there?
Yes, we're here. We're here.
You got a whole group this morning, huh?
Yes, we do. We're getting this afternoon crew all ready for us, you know.
And thanks, you guys. Karen let me know that there was an issue, so I really appreciate it, and that's how I was able to get on with you guys today. So, Bonnie, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to have you just say your name, and then you're going to keep repeating AEIOU for the 15 seconds, and I certainly will let you know when that's complete. So do you feel ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'll count you down here. I'll start recording in 3, 2, 1. I'm recording.
Bonnie, A-E-I-O-U, 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 A-E-I-O-U.
Perfect. Perfect. That's perfect. Bonnie, what are we working on for you?
Memory is a big one.
Okay. So some brain stuff?
Yeah.
Anything else? That's probably enough. That's where everything starts from, right?
The big thing, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so Bonnie, thanks for being on today, and we're going to come back a little bit after I do my testing, and we'll talk to you again.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, and thank you, Bonnie, and thanks for everybody there checking out the class today. It's really nice to have you. Okay, so we're going to do some testing now. Let me just make some comments really interesting about brain stuff in general. We often think about brain as just cognitive stuff, like memory, right? But it's really interesting because the brain encompasses the pituitary and the hypothalamus. These are the regulators of hormones in the body, including adrenal hormones and thyroid hormones, and reproductive hormones. So it's really, really interesting. As we age, if we don't have as healthy a brain as we could, say because we have ups and downs in sugar and we don't oxygenate enough, even doing inverted postures and going against gravity and getting blood into the brain, exercise, a number of different things can really help, making sure that we're getting into deep sleep at night, etc., and so forth. Those are really important, not just for cognitive stuff, but your level of hunger and weight gain, very much related to the brain function. Your adrenal function, related to brain function, because it's a regulator of the adrenals. How well your hormones are doing is a function of the brain. So it's a very good top-down thing to work on the brain, and we'll talk about some strategies for doing that, both inside the program and with some of the custom libraries, which can really help. And many of you on here do have the custom libraries, so it's good to have that as well. And Carol says, if the person is not a native speaker of a language, is it better to that their voice recording is in their native language? Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, yeah. If they don't speak any of whatever language you speak, and they feel more comfortable in that language, or they don't speak your language very well, their language is perfectly fine. It is the tones of their voice and not dissecting the language. Oh, Shireen says she had a bad fall today. Sure, okay. My goodness, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, let's see if we can get onto that. And okay, I upgraded my second iPad to iOS 11 and it changed a heap of things for me. I have not done this on my iPad that has the Genius, but I'm wondering if anyone else has done so and if they have experienced any changes. Okay, what Ryan told me as of last night on the iOS 11 deal is that he thinks he's been testing it, you guys, iOS 11, and he thinks it's going to be fine. I always wait until the absolute last minute. So if people on here have updated to iOS 11 and they're having no problem with the Genius, let me know. If you are having an issue with the Genius, don't let me know. Let Ryan know, rw@quantumhealthapps.com. And I always just wait until the very last minute. Like, I have not updated anything that has the Genius on it to iOS 11 for that very reason. Like, I want to wait until I know that all the testing is done and everything is perfectly fine. So Jane says, I upgraded to iOS 11 and it is fine. So that's really good news, you guys. So if anybody else has, then let us know. And welcome to everybody who's joined us a little bit past the hour. Kelly, it's always a pleasure to have you. If you have any good stuff for us today, based on what you're seeing in Southern California, let us know. Okay, well, good news, brain anatomy, good news, bad news, right? Brain anatomy has come up, so this is a great one. And if you have my mastery guide, I have defined everything in these 27 screens. So you can go to my mastery guide and you can look up in the mastery guide, why is the cortex coming up? And that will help you with your balancing. And if you don't know what it is, then just go ahead and include it. And that's the only thing that comes up here in brain anatomy. I don't find the brain anatomy in this section to be as complete as I would like it to be. So, yeah, I find that with my custom panels for the brain, I do like it better, but this is a good place to start, you know. And just the fact that brain anatomy is coming up for her kind of confirms, you know, her concern, you know, that she had about it. All right, let's just bring this up here. All right, so we've got that. And then you can also, just as a practice, I usually include any items as the category itself, if it's in red and blue. It doesn't mean I'll test it even, but I like to include it. Now, this is always interesting. If you see digestion and brain anatomy together, or anytime you see digestion and they've reported another chronic issue, go ahead and include or do more testing into digestion. There is such a thing as leaky brain. Sounds like it would be amusing if it wasn't so, unfortunately, so completely troubling. What happens when you have gut permeability, which means that your gut is not balanced in some way, and it's often from eating those dang food sensitivities, and when that happens, then whatever's going on in your gut starts to occur a similar corollary in the brain. So, for example, when people eat gluten, they tend to not do well with it. All right, so let's go here. Okay, so let me just change the view for 1 second. And hang on, let's go to the main screen. So if you have my mastery guide, what you can do is you can look up in the table of contents for the brain anatomy itself. And you guys, the physical version of this is $47. You get a hard copy and the e-version. The e-version itself is $27. If somebody gets it while they're on the trial and they purchase through me, they get that credited back, so they can get this on the trial and try it out. But it's very, very handy because look at what this says. The furrowed outer layer of gray matter, the cortex is usually what you see when you see those pictures of the brain, in the cerebrum of the brain associated with the higher functions like voluntary movement, coordination, and of sensory information, learning and memory, and the expression of individuality. So what's the first thing that she said? She was saying that she was concerned about memory. So that's really good for you to read that to that person, and it really confirms and it raises their level of confidence in the testing that you're doing. So we included that down in the main hold tray. Remember that our main hold tray is our large swath. It's the broad net that we're throwing out. We have not drawn any positive conclusions, but we're going, oh, this makes sense. Large intestine, esophagus. Esophagus is often an issue when people have too low of stomach acid. They start to get an issue where it's a long story, but the acids end up as a result of fermentation in their tummy. They get an acidic reaction and it affects their esophagus. So let's just go ahead. Small intestine, we won't go through all of these, but again, if you have problems with your digestion, it actually can affect your brain, and so you want to correct the issues of digestion as much as is possible. Okay, now just to go back to the brain for a second, let's go back to brain anatomy. Let's go ahead and we're going to look at the progressive insights. The purpose is not progressive insights, entangled insights. The purpose of entangled insights is to be able to compare one issue to another. So if you want to compare the cortex to find more about the origin of that particular issue, or to find out what it's related to, or to even to seek a remedy, then you will want to go to the entangled insights. Now there is a database. So first let me demonstrate that, and I'll get to the database. To do this, we swipe quickly from left to right. So just with your tip of your finger, you're going to swipe quickly from left to right, and we're going to go into here. We then hit check. Now there's new percentages, I believe, are in this version. Okay, we have to select something. So the first category I want to show to you is called emotions. So you type in the word emotions or emotional, and it's going to bring up, has this cortex issue been related to an emotional issue? Let's go ahead and hit the check button. In the meantime, I'm going to see if I can upload the entangled insights into, we used to have this just in there all the time. So it looks like it updated, yeah. So if you now look on your control panel, those of you on the phone might have a more difficult time with this, but for those of you on a computer or on a laptop, you can go ahead and you can see the database. Now, now we have percentages. So these numbers that have the highest percentages, it's really good that Ryan, the developer, just added this. This is pretty cool. So there's a 50% overall match, which is a good number, that emotions in general are related to anything going on in the cortex. And you guys, any not impairment, but any sort of issue in the body, there's always going to be some emotional connection. It's almost inevitable. And so by running the frequencies of these emotions, even without giving them too much like overanalysis, like I don't know how apathy is related to the cortex, you know, not functioning as well as it could. And maybe she doesn't even feel like she's apathetic. That's okay. We don't have to get into the micro analysis of all of that, but fear. Now we do know that emotions and extended times that you're stressed definitely affect the brain. Specifically, the studies have been done with the hippocampus. And so if you are in a state of fight or flight and extended stress for some period of time, we know that it can form some dysfunction of the hippocampus, which is related to memory. So we know that we already know that there is a scientific basis that emotions can adversely affect the brain in some way. Now, we've only had these percentages for a very short time, but my guess would be to use anything use all the emotions that are over 80%. So now, are all of these emotions exactly correlable to a dysfunction or a change in the flow in the cortex? We don't have evidence for that. And if there are other emotions that come up that the person says, sadness, I have sadness, how come that's not a high percentage? All you do is you go, oh, sadness, you feel like that's related, and you just put it in the tray. Now, one thing we don't have, so at this point, are these low percentages. We haven't really explained them. But my guess is, even though these are low percentages, the low percentage should tell us that there's a low correlation. Historically, we have included the very lowest entangled insight item. So let's just go ahead and include it anyway, and let's see where it lands in the progressive insights. You guys, anything in this main whole tray is going to be retested in progressive insights, so there's no downside to doing too many things, to doing a lot of things down in the main whole tray. So if you download the Entangled Insights, that's a database that tells you everything that is actually in this little box that you can type in here, that you can compare one thing to another. All right, and Orlando said, where's the link for the mastery guide? Go to the website awakentotalhealth.com. I'm going to try to pull up that link for you, and just go ahead and type in mastery guide, and you should be able to see that come up. There is actually a search bar right at the top of my website, even though you don't see the box right away, and when you click on that, you can see that. So if you're in the States, Orlando, you can get free shipping on this and get the hard copy. Canada too, I've just been paying the extra postage for Canada, so that's not a problem. And then you can get the e-version if you're elsewhere around the world. It does cost us a little bit more to ship that manual. Okay. There we go. There's a link for the manual. If you didn't want the hard copy, then just search on the website and it'll give you the e-version, Orlando. Either way is fine. Okay. So back to this. If anybody else has had good experience so far with iOS 11, will you let us know? And then I just want to do one more series of testing in here with the Cortex, or maybe a couple more. So when you go to the Entangled Insights database, right, look for the specific insights for emotion, homeopathy. You can also type in here Young Living, and you could get an oil that way. There's also homeopathy as a group, and you could also search for an infection. So you could also search for, is there an underlying bacteria in there? You could search for all of those things. We're not going to do that right now. Now, with the brain, you're always thinking about mind, mental stuff. So for that reason, you should definitely include emotions. But we really did that from the Entangled Insights, so we're not going to spend the time for that. Then other things that are good when you're working on the brain are things like meridians. Meridians are always good overall. These are like the heavy hitters of the program. So including lung, pericardium, all these ones that are lighting up, small intestine, large intestine. Again, how is that digestive stuff related to brain function? Also, of course, brain EEG. This is the brain waves of the waves that the brain is generating. You know, high alpha is interesting. Kind of would be odd to have high alpha. High alpha is more like meditation. I'm not going to go through all the brain waves right now. I actually did a class on this that you can download to learn more about that, and they are explained in the Mastery Guide. I do want to go to some of my custom libraries because they're going to shed a lot of light here. Let's actually, one thing I've really been doing is, just for simplicity, if you have my full array, is you can just add them all. So if you have all 200 of the ones that I have, you can just add those in. And that makes life a little bit easier because now they're all assigned to her profile. And we can now go to libraries. And it's always interesting to see what comes up at the top. I do have a lot of other ones in here. Some of them are not going to relate, like about water, so we don't necessarily look at those. But I do actually just want to get all the brain ones up here. And so it'll bring up everything that has a custom library related to the brain. And the one that I really want to look at is brain solutions. Even though these are all coming up in different colors, I don't let that necessarily dictate how I test. I want to test what I want to test. So I'm going to choose brain solutions because this helps me to understand why her brain might not be functioning as much as she wants it to function, as well as she wants it to function. So this says some nutritional issues, and we can look at this more. Food allergies, which is, boy, just exactly what we've been talking about, the food, that the digestion can affect the brain function. And again, digestion, inflammation, gluten, not really, but I want to include it anyway. It's sort of borderline, and I do include those borderline ones because this is the loosey-goosey testing here. I want to include insulin as well. You guys, one of the most important things to know about the brain is that just as we look at for weight loss or for health, for the insulin regulation to be healthy, we consider that very important for brain function too. If you have ups and downs in blood sugar, then there are times when you're not getting the best perfusion to the brain. And those misfirings over time can take their toll. So if anybody does know that they have issues with blood sugar, this can translate into issues with the brain. Do you guys remember there was a series of articles that came out? Probably they started talking about it 10 years ago, but there was some pretty good evidence that Alzheimer's itself is probably related. They've called it diabetes type 3. Now, this in no way means that anybody that we're testing here has any type of Alzheimer's issue. I'm just telling you that the sugar issue is sort of the #1 issue regarding the brain. I also like to do brain assessment. This will give me another sort of look at maybe what's going on with the brain. Growth hormone, so this diminishes as we age. Now, growth hormone, now I didn't give any birth information, but we can say that Bonnie's, over age 45, and 45 and over, your brain growth hormone starts to diminish, especially if you don't have good sleep, and especially if you eat too close to bedtime. So fasting for as long as possible, say you stop eating at 7 p.m. and then you don't eat again until, at least 7 the next morning. That's really, really good because you have a nice 12-hour fast. And if you can extend that to noon, that's even better. The longer you're fasting, the better the growth hormone. Phenylethylamine, I'm not going to say too much about it. Glutamate, this can happen from food allergies and other food additives. Emotional stress, so we see that theme of emotional stress. And the peroxynitrite is not a good byproduct in the brain. So again, some shaping up of the digestion, more oxygen, help with some antioxidants would be helpful, things like that. All right, so I think that that's probably enough to go into progressive insights. Let's just see if there's anything else that is interesting. These are just all my custom libraries that have to do with the brain. There was one more. Let's see. Let's look at brain treatment. This is going to give us herbs and remedies for the brain. Even when I look at herbs and remedies for the brain, I'm always thinking about what the remedy is used for, and that informs me with more information. So benfotiamine is actually a B1 derivative. It's like a fat-based or fat-based version of vitamin B1. It's like a fat-soluble version. Usually the B vitamins are water-soluble. This is a fat-soluble, and it's been studied. It's a form of vitamin B1 being used to preserve brain function over the long term. So that may be something that Bonnie wants to look into. Now, phosphatidylserine is really, really interesting. Phosphatidylserine is an amino acid that you can take in the afternoon and also take it again in the evening. It really helps to bind up cortisol so that you get into a deeper state of sleep. Really, really an interesting amino acid. It's really pretty harmless. There's really no side effects from taking it. I'm finding a lot of people really need it because they don't wind down well before bedtime, and so their sleep quality is not as good. There was something else I just wanted to go, I'm not going to talk too much about rutin, that I just want to say about the blood sugar issue that's so interesting. There is a pharmaceutical called metformin. You may have heard of it. It's an oral hypoglycemic. Now, I under no circumstances am recommending that you take this, but people, if you look at the people in the anti-aging community, they've gotten very, very excited about this because there is some evidence that taking the metformin can extend life or slow the aging process. But what this tells us is that by controlling our sugar in the body, so what this means is better use of your muscles, more exercise, making sure you have more green juices and not a lot of processed carbohydrates, those all contribute to good blood sugar balance. And so it tells us that one of the most important things that we can be doing for good health and for good brain health is actually to work on that sugar balance. And some people go as far as to get blood sugar monitors and things like that. I think using your genius and keeping focus in this area is very, very important. Now, CoQ10 is sort of borderline here. If you guys listen to my podcast, the Energy Medicine Podcast, I did a great interview with Lilius Amaris, and she really has been studying this mitochondrial dysfunction issue. So if you just Google Energy Medicine Podcast and Dr. Ariel, it'll come up. And you should listen to the one on mitochondrial dysfunction. If the mitochondria in your brain is not working, then that can affect everything else. And so she talks about some ways to improve that. Antioxidants like resveratrol can play a big part in helping wherever there's a lot of free radical activity. And I think the peroxynitrite, that is a free radical that can be produced in the brain. So I know that this is a lot, you guys. I do have a course on brain health that you can download, and you can go to my website and just type in the word brain and it'll come up. And I've talked all about these issues in that 4-webinar series that you can download and listen to or watch. Now I want to proceed to progressive insights here, and getting into it right here. This is where we'll find some of the top issues going on for Bonnie. So even though we were really sort of throwing a broad net out and we did find some really interesting information, this is where we really get the top information that we need to know, either cognitively or it informs the frequencies that we need to run. So mucuna is a really interesting herb that helps with dopamine balance in the brain. So this tells me that a part of contributing to her brain issues may be that she never gets up to top, she sort of never gets topped up with enough dopamine. So she may need to do some vigorous exercise or some other things to help that dopamine really get up to the level that it needs to be. Now, this is just conjecture. I don't know enough. I'm just giving you what, you know, sort of the reflection that I get. So gallbladder meridian, opening the energy, and that is important. Again, we see the theme here, and the good practitioners like yourselves of biofeedback see the patterns. We've seen digestion several times in this case, meaning that as she clears up her digestion, either balancing the blood sugar, helping the gallbladder, bile, all of that, cleansing the colon, all of those things are very likely to contribute to a restoration of good brain function for her. There are some emotional things. We're not really clear, of course, what those are, but we did see these come up as the high percentages in entangled insights, and now we see them still consistently come up here in progressive insights. Now, butcher's broom is used to improve the circulation in the brain. That's what butcher's broom is used for, and it's surprisingly a very unsexy name for any type of an herb. Butcher and broom, you know, come on. But it actually is very, very good for brain function. You can read more about it online. So rutin is another good one for brain function. Again, you see the need for antioxidants. There's that issue of apathy again. And so what I really do is I just leave it to the individual. I can ask them, like, what is, you know, does apathy, is there any meaning for that? Or I might, depending on the situation, I might just say to that person, apathy is a good thing for you to contemplate. Is there any issue around that? And apathy is usually when you're just sort of, you don't really have that drive for whatever reason to, do things in your life. And gluten, pericardium. Okay, so we want to balance all of these. We don't have, well, we're going to go a little long today because we started late. But I really like to do those, this first round of balancing, which I would do for 3 minutes, helps to clear things. And I noticed that the new reporting function will even report each round of balancing that you did in Progressive Insights. And, tip of the hat to Ryan. That's pretty cool. Okay. And is it okay to load iOS 11 at this time? So you may have joined us a little bit after the hour, and some people said it's fine, Roger and Teresa, and Beatrice says it's downloaded just fine. So yeah, so let's go back to Bonnie and talk to her for a moment. We'll have some extra time here to do a bit more balancing. So let's just go back here. Bonnie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So what was your perspective as we began to do that testing? Any feedback on that?
It seemed to be pretty accurate. Yeah, like the apathy, it's almost like a state of depression where, yeah, I'm just kind of functioning, walking through life, but not really involved emotionally.
Oh, okay. So it was sort of accurate for what you personally are experiencing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually really, really good. And even, the minute that we acknowledge that, or you see that on there and it rings true for you, a lot starts to happen. So the clearing even begins then. So that's really great. Any other comments or anything that you noticed as we were doing the testing?
Well, just like adrenals and thyroid hormones, like if I've really kind of figured out those have been a problem for a long time, so those came up, so that registered. The other thing that happens sometimes is I get kind of joints in my finger locking up, so I don't know if that's an arthritic thing or what that's related to.
Oh, okay, we didn't really test for that, so we just worked on the brain stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll work on that next time for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it just all made sense.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you so much. I'm going to continue to do some more balancing here for you, and thank you so much for being a part of the class today.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, cool. All right, so that apathy really did ring true for her. Now, I wish we'd had a little bit more time here, but what I would do is just add another random frequency. It doesn't even matter if it's not really green, yellow, whatever color it is. We just want to add one more thing because that's when we peel the layer here. And what we usually do is we go to a deeper level. And gratitude, she probably is cultivating that relationship with gratitude, or it might have a trigger for her in a positive way, an acknowledgement. And so we can see that one. Again, the CoQ10 is a very likely culprit. The CoQ10 helps with oxygen saturation. These are related. And we see breakthroughs with the mitochondrial brain function in the form of something called PQQ. So if you look for that online, that is a form of CoQ10 that's very absorbable and seems to be the most utilizable of the CoQ10s. PQQ, look it up and so you can see some of the studies that have been done. So this tells me that CoQ10 would help to probably help to activate her brain by activating the mitochondria. You guys, we haven't even started to see the real work here about brain function related to mitochondria, as well as everything else in the body. It's very likely that due to toxicity and due to stress in our lives that we're short-circuiting the mitochondria very early in life, leading to a number of different issues, anything from adrenal to hormone, anything like that. And again, one of the most powerful techniques that you can use here is peeling the onion, this 3-minute continuous balancing. You balance for 3 minutes, you add one frequency, you go back to Progressive Insights, and you yourself will learn more about the case as you peel the layer, because you see the things that keep rising to the top. Those are very important themes. Or you see things that are cleared out very quickly, and you go to deeper themes. This is very, very important. Kelly has given us, now this is the one time, of course, I didn't do those flower essences in there, but Kelly says, and Bonnie, this is important, and you may want to look into this. She says mimulus and olive oil are and olive oil. Wow, my brain needs a not olive oil. Mimulus, the flower essence, the Bach flower essence, and olive, the flower essence, the Bach flower essence, are amazing for apathy. Don't use olive oil. That's not good for circulation. I was reviewing the information about olive oil, and there's so much evidence that taking olive oil as the oil itself leads to atherogenesis, leads to heart disease, which is rarely talked about, but you can look up the work of Dr. Esselstyn on that. So not very much olive oil, but you can use the flower essence olive. Now, I don't, even though Kelly is saying that and she knows it, the whole thing about biofeedback is to find the things that are relevant for that person within the program that have the most relevance for that person. So those may or may not come up as resonating for her. We can check them. But you can also just use your cognitive awareness that, yes, mimulus could be very good for apathy, and so she could try it. These are the ones that are coming up specific for Bonnie. And so we could look at those as well. We'll include them and we'll take them into Progressive Insights. So we don't see either one of those coming up in the testing. And the testing says, what is the most likely probability that at this moment this remedy is relevant for that person? But, hey, if those are known, and Kelly's a bit of an expert in this area working with those flower essences, as she does. Actually, I don't see, okay, here's olive. I don't see the mimulus. We're just going to include it for giggles anyway and see if it comes up in Progressive Insights. So that's a nice way that you can combine your cognitive knowledge with the testing. And there it is. And there it is. Wow. Wow, that was really good, Kelly. You get A+ today. That's really interesting, is you can't make that up, can you? So what we did was we put everything back in. Now, this is very informative, and this is a good example of something I've been telling you guys, which is that the testing parameters in the first part of the program are not as strong as the ones in Progressive Insights, which is why you don't want to rely on those reds and blues. They're just guides, and they are good guides, but you take the most information that you can in the main part of the program, and then you put them into the Progressive Insights where the strongest testing algorithms are. And now we've been peeling the layer, okay? So we're getting to the deeper issues. So white chestnut is probably very important as well. It doesn't mean we have to take all the remedies here. It means that the frequencies of the remedies hold an important opening, an important informing for that person. All right, so butcher's broom, again, increasing the circulation in the brain. So there's a circulation issue as well. So I really do recommend, even just walking. If you walk for 5 minutes a day, now walk for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Walking is some of the best exercise that we don't do enough. In my studies about PEMP, dealing with the, guys know that I'm a big fan of the Beamer mat, and that is something I personally wouldn't be without. With the Beamer mat, it's like a replication of circulation. We used to walk up to 25 miles a day on average, primitive, right, man or woman or humans. And now it's shrunk, if we were walking a mile or 3 miles a day, it would be, an amazing feat. And we need that level of movement in the body for the brain, for the body itself, for the muscles, to keep the movement, to keep the hydrogen bonds from forming. That's where we get all the stiffness from. So, but by the way, the things going on in the fingers, back to Bonnie, that could be related to foods as well. So really do a nice sort of anti-inflammatory, hypoallergenic cleanse for yourself, because those are often related to digestive issues as well. It could be early osteoarthritis, but the fingers are a weird place to get osteoarthritis because they're not wear and tear places. So these are often related to food allergies or toxicity. And any really bad pain could be related to gout. So you want to just look at a sort of an overall look. That was a really good call, Kelly. Tip of the hat to you. You are spot on there. All right, so Jeff says, do general overview quick balance first without filling tray, then quick balance custom panels the same way, effective even without filling tray and doing progressive insights. And then a question mark, so I guess that's a question. Do general overview quick balance first without filling tray? Yes, you could do that if you want to. I'll talk about the quick balance in a moment. What was the CoQ10 PPQ? No, it's the PQQ. Go ahead and look it up online. Just put into Google coenzyme Q10 PQQ. It's like pyroquilinone, something like that. And what it is it's a more absorbable form of CoQ10 than the regular CoQ10 that you purchase. You guys, if you're purchasing supplements, you may want to do a brief consultation with me, or you may want to find out if I, based on what we work on together, both cognitively and with the Genius, if it's a good supplement for you. People often don't know where to buy their supplements, which supplement to get, or what form to get, and as a result, the supplement is not as effective as it could be. So, that's something you might want to just do like a 15 or 20-minute consultation with me, and so that's something that we certainly could set up. But yeah, so there's a good Life Extension article here. I don't think you have to buy your stuff from Life Extension, but there's a really good Life Extension article if you just Google PQQ, CoQ10 mitochondria. Today, science recognized mitochondrial dysfunction as a key biomarker of aging. The good news is that this mitochondrial dysfunction can be reversed. The latest advance in the area is through the PQQ, pyroquinoline quinone, which is the PQQ. And so it is a form which is the most absorbable and the most utilizable by the body. Unlike other antioxidant compounds, PQQ's exceptional stability allows it to carry out thousands of these electron transfers without undergoing molecular breakdown, so it's active for longer. It has been proven especially effective in neutralizing the ubiquitous superoxide and hydroxyl radicals. And remember I talked about the peroxynitrite. And the peroxynitrite, that metabolite she's getting in her brain, is an active free radical, so the PQQ could potentially be exceptional for her. We don't really recommend supplements as biofeedback practitioners. The reason I do that is as a naturopathic doctor, but what you say to your client is, this is interesting. I noticed that the PQQ came up, or the CoQ10 came up. My mentor said PQQ is one of the best forms. I recommend you read online about it and make the decision yourself if it seems like something that's good to supplement with. So Bonnie, thank you so much, and I would definitely check out some of these flower essences, see if they resonate for you as well. So thanks a lot, and if you're interested in the Genius, let's talk more, and I know you're talking to Karen as well. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. All right, so let's see, Shireen, is she still around there? So Shireen, did you send me your birth details? She's the one who had the fall. We're going to do a super quick look at what's going on with Shireen and talk about some things that she can do. So let's turn this camera off for just 1 second, you guys. If you have any other questions, or if anybody else can give us feedback on the iOS 11, did anything change, or did you log into your program without incident, then please let us know. Trying to think of anything else that we need to know today. We talked about the Mastery Guide. We talked about the Biofeedback Practitioner Program. I think next week we're going to do a cancer focus. So if you know people with cancer, or if cancer's in the family, or you're worried about it, we're going to talk about what it means to test and balance with biofeedback next week. So be sure to be here if these are cases that you yourself are working on. So next week, cancer focus, how to test, how to balance, what the frequencies mean. Okay, we're back with the camera. And I'm going to unmute you now, Shireen, so if you're able to talk into the computer, able to talk into your iPad, whatever it may be, this would be a good time to unmute yourself. Oh, good. Shireen, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Absolutely. So let's get your voice recording. I'm going to cue you and then record your name and then keep repeating A-E-I-O-U, okay?
Okay.
I'll start recording in 3, 2, 1. I'm recording.
Shireen. A-E-I-O-U. 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 A-E-I-O-U.
Okay, that is absolutely perfect. Shireen, my dear, tell us what happened.
Well, well, I thought I would do a little bit of exercise, and I was trying to do something a little stupid. I was holding my hands, trying to do what was like a parallel exercise, lifting your legs up and sort of jumping back. But when I put my legs back down on the ground, it's sort of missed. So I ended up sort of flying and landing straight on my back.
Well, it sounds very painful. It also sounds like it technically could have been completely hilarious to see that, but it doesn't sound like maybe it was that funny.
I thought it was quite funny, but yeah, it has been a little bit painful all day, but I have been doing some treatment on it. But
of course, what were your thoughts about what you were running to help yourself?
Well, I think this is probably something about something more connected to emotions, actually.
Very interesting. Oh, wow, I love that.
In a sense of something saying, you know, you need to kind of wake up, so stop, pause, and it was like some sort of awakening. It felt more like. So that was an interesting. It was what seemed to come up for me. So,
no, I love it. Yeah, let's do the emotions. And, you know, I do think that falls and things like that, you know, definitely have an emotional component, which we don't usually think about. And so I think that for your helping you to recover.
It was like letting go, but I let go and then I landed, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that running just as a sort of techniques or strategies for helping someone, I think with an injury and emotion both before, maybe causative, and after is a really good way to help the person to recover. They're in a frequency, right? Your fall, your pain, your so forth is a frequency. You know, the best example of that is sort of the tried and true homeopathic arnica.
Right. Yes.
Because but the funny thing is, but the reason, if you think about it, it's all frequency medicine, because when you take arnica, there's absolutely no medication in there. It is just the frequency of that particular, which is basically like a toxic plant, and when you take it, it creates a frequency change within you. And so it's a good evidence that informs why biofeedback is helpful. And with the emotions, these are one of the most powerful ways to change your frequency. So that's why it can work as a way to reduce pain and to help you to heal faster.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, from that perspective too, I think working with the flower essences can be really, really helpful. So emotions and flower essences for you today. And isn't it funny, rescue remedy? That's like perfect for any type of a physical accident. So yeah, rescue remedy is like tried and true for any type of injury or emotional upset. We used to have rescue remedy by the gallon in medical school, and we would take it before an exam, and it just every time it would help. We also had it in the lab when we were doing blood draws, test blood draws on each other, and people would get nervous about getting stuck all the time. So we had rescue remedy in that there as well. Okay, so we got a lot of really good flower essences that are coming up for you, so let's get all of those in there. Then the other thing for injuries, which is really great, is of course that spinal panel, and did you notice that spinal panel came up for you? So that's a really good one too. Obviously we can fall on the back, that's part of it, but even if you didn't, then there's all types of corrections in the spine that will help the area of injury anyway. So that's really good as well. All right, so let's get that. I think we lost a panel with the Infinity. Used to have one on ligaments and so forth, so we need to find something. Need to get another custom library that would mimic some of that. So then, of course, today's stress is a really good tried and true one because it just gives you an overview. Of course, you've got some inflammation going on there. That's not a surprise either. Let's get some of these in here for the overall things that are going on today. But the other thing I think it's really, I think you got this, I somehow remember sending it to you, but maybe not, is actually that nerve panel. Did you get that one?
No, I don't think, I think I've got a digestive panel. I'll double check.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that would be, this is one of my custom libraries, so you may want to get it at some point, but what I'm going to do is just put this in here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. The nerve one for any type of an injury can be really, really powerful. And so none of these really are totally clear. These are some other things, the aortic plexus, the optic nerve, the tibial nerve. Now my guide explains all of these, but the nerves are quite powerful for balancing in general because this is the energy flow to the body. Haven't seen one yet that totally makes sense related to your fall, but there are sort of a heck of a lot of these coming up. And Beatrice is on. Beatrice has sent me a message previously that says everyone that she tests for her husband has been really spot on in terms of making sense for what he's going through. Right. And I've had some other feedback on this as well. The guide itself will help you with what these are related to. Some of these are related to the shoulder area. So anyway, so we've got, let's just review what we've utilized today. We use spinal energy.
I've been having a back pain, sort of, you know, where you get a referred sort of pain up from your liver up into your sort of mid-back rhomboid area, sort of pain on the right-hand side I've been having for a while, you know, recently. But yeah, I do have lower back pain. Well, not, I don't experience it anymore, but I have got some sort of degeneration there. So,
oh,
so
interesting.
That may be showing what that's up. Yeah.
Okay. So when we go again, when we go into the progressive insights, which is that high level of testing here, we get inflammation, and we get the intercostal nerve, which is very interesting. That's definitely in that
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I mean, I'm not happy that you have the pain, but that's really cool to see that come up at that high level. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any pain anywhere but there.
Wow. Okay.
Almost right. It's right over my sort of heart, and sort of, yeah, it's probably sort of around T4 to T9, 10. So all the bone sort of, that's where I hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that here. Just go to the main screen for a second, and you can see that intercostal nerves are in that area that she talked about. They're talking about Shireen, so really, really cool. Definitely we're going to balance those. We see the inflammation there. Solfeggiotones being something very high vibrational that you probably respond to. Hornbeam, probably a very significant. Flower essences, we can look that up. So lots of good flower essences. Obviously you're responsive to those really high vibrational, the solfeggiotones, the Bach flower essences, and again telling us that emotions do indeed play a part in this, you know, healing process for you. So really, really cool. But that's what I would recommend, balancing. I think we're going to have some good results from balancing with this. So I really appreciate it. I gotta cut it short just because we're so over time here, but thank you so much, Shireen, and please send me a message if this is helpful or what you decide to balance afterwards and how it goes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Now it gives a good clue. You know, it's funny. You can watch someone else being done, but when it's actually done with you, then it does another layer, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Absolutely. And definitely, I always have somebody else look at me to get another perspective. You're so spot on. All right. Thank you so much, Shireen.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right. So, Kelly says we had a really interesting session with another doctor after her son, Brendan, is don't think Brendan's yours. Okay, I've got to get clear on all of your kids' names. Fell upside down on a trampoline. She muscle tested each element on the fall. Oh, had my son retell the story and remove each emotion associated with the element of the fall. You could do the same with a custom panel and test Young Livings or Bach flower essence for each. He was unable, went from unable to pitch baseball for a playoff game, and when we left, 100% of his pain was gone. So what she's specifically saying is that she worked out the emotion at each juncture related to the injury, and that is one of your sons. Okay. So I knew that Wesley and Wes, I get those confused. But anyway, so going back to the issue overall, we can think of a way that we can do that in process with emotions and the issue. I have to give that some more thought, but I think what we're doing here in Progressive Insights is just as effective. So Shireen, I'm going to continue to balance you for the next little while, see if that has any upside for you. And you guys, if you're not in the Facebook page, get into those Facebook pages where we have the Q&A and then the support. And you could ask somebody to buddy up with you and, hey, would you balance me? I'll balance you. That's totally fine. You can do that in there. If you don't have access to those, I'll include those in this week's newsletter so you can jump in and be a part, be a part of that experience. And definitely if you work with someone, exchange balancings, because I always get more perspective, when someone balances me. But those nerves, again, very, very powerful. You can get the nerve assessment custom library on the website awakentotalhealth.com. Comes with a guide that explains why that particular nerve may be up for that person, like the location of the nerve and its meaning as well. So great class today, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging in there. And don't hesitate if there's no link or the link doesn't seem to be up. Shireen says that today's balancing was a great help, and Bonnie said thank you as well. You guys, thank you for volunteering today. You really help other people to understand the genius in a really profound way, and so thank you so much for being that living example. We really appreciate you so much. So check out the practitioner program, the nerve assessment. Definitely, if your link doesn't work on Monday mornings, shoot me an email. I'm always checking that, and today I just could not get to you guys, so I'm glad that we connected. I'm sending you much love for your week and plenty of wonderful abundance, you guys. If you have any questions for me, please email me, Ariel@awakentotalhealth.com. Ariel@awakentotalhealth.com. Have a great week, everyone. See you next week. Take care now and be well. Look for the newsletter, you guys. Lots of good, juicy news in there, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.